Hey guys, what's happening? Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. As requested, today we're going to be exploring The Endless, the 2017 supernatural horror, written, directed by, and starring Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead. In a genre saturated with overtly explicit horror tropes and a dependence on jump scares, The Endless is a compelling, complex, and thoughtful exploration of Lovecraftian cosmic horror that manages to intrigue, unsettle, and mystify in a film that's just as much about the human condition as it is about otherworldly terrors. The film follows two brothers, Aaron and Justin, who return to the UFO death cult they escaped from a decade earlier, only to find that the group's bizarre beliefs about an unseen entity might hold more truth than they initially thought. As their differing objectives and motivations clash, we see the pair go through a harrowing experience that pushes them to the limit, with a Lovecraftian monster threatening to upend their existence. In this video, we're going to explore the story, the weird Lovecraftian monster at the crux of the film, in addition to the ending.
Saying more would be like trying to explain an impossible color.
The film opens with a quote from H.P. Lovecraft stating, "The oldest and strongest emotion of mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown," subtly hinting at the film's themes of cosmic horror and the insignificance of man in the face of the greater universe. We're then introduced to our protagonists, brothers Justin and Aaron. Shown living a mundane, unfulfilling existence in the city, cleaning houses for a living, we soon learn that they'd escaped from a UFO death cult over 10 years ago.
The thing that makes our lives here better is thinking for ourselves.
Their interactions give us an early understanding of their personalities. Justin is the protective older brother, while Aaron is the more open and yearning younger one. Their simple, monotonous life suggests a level of dissatisfaction, especially on Aaron's part, and it's evident that the man yearns for the life that they had at the camp, while Justin insists that it was a dangerous cult. But when they receive a videotape in the mail from Camp Arcadia, where they grew up, the plot sets into motion. The tape contains a message from Anna, one of the camp members, who appears to be bidding goodbye in a disturbing, cryptic way.
And we couldn't be happier. So our round trip from this place and back is really something to celebrate. We look forward to seeing you when we return.
Justin is concerned that the cult might finally be committing mass suicide, as he predicted, telling Aaron this is clearly a goodbye and that she drank the Kool-Aid. But his brother argues it didn't seem like a death cult to him, reflecting his longing for their past life at the camp. You see, Aaron was younger when they left. In his mind, Arcadia was a community where people cared for one another, which contrasts starkly with their now lonely lives.
Good. If we were back at the camp, we'd have, good food and support, and we wouldn't be one dirty house away from being homeless.
The video, along with his nostalgia for the past, compels Aaron to want to revisit the camp. And, driven by a protective instinct and a desire to prove his assertions about the cult, his brother reluctantly agrees to return with him.
One day, one night, we come straight back. Will that make you feel better?
Near the entrance to the camp, they find a memorial they'd crafted as children for someone, later revealed to be their own mother. Despite the site being over 10 years old, the memorial is unspoiled, almost as if it were made yesterday, and, in a way, it was. They also spot two weird formations of birds in the shape of eyes that disappear as quickly as they appeared.
You becoming religious?
No.
Praying to a grave.
It's not a grave, it's a memoriam.
Arriving at camp, the pair are greeted warmly by the members, who don't seem to have aged a day in the decades since Justin and Aaron left. This inexplicable youthfulness of the camp members piques Justin's suspicions, but only fuels Aaron's intrigue, especially considering the weird behavior of some of the camp members, from a man that appears to be furiously walking around in a circle ignoring them, to a lobotomized guy that just smiles all the time.
Not a cult at all.
It's important to note that the camp members, including Anna, Lizzie, Tim, Shane, and their unofficial leader Hal, welcome them with open arms, further challenging Justin's UFO death cult narrative.
Just thought we'd visit while you're, here.
We're always here.
The introduction serves as a setup for the eerie, disconcerting events that follow, establishing the brothers' contrasting views of their past, their conflicted feelings about returning, and the odd, unsettling atmosphere of the camp.
It's nice to finally meet you two. Everyone says all kinds of stuff about you.
After showing Justin an impossible equation he was trying to solve, Hal forgives him for his past transgressions, and during the first night, the camp members host a welcome back celebration for Justin and Aaron. The sense of community and happiness is palpable, and it's easy to see why Aaron remembers the camp fondly. Justin, however, remains skeptical as ever. During their stay, the brothers start noticing strange occurrences that hint at the supernatural. This begins with Shane performing a weird magic trick, throwing a baseball up that appears to hang in the air for an abnormally long time before coming back down. Which is followed by a bizarre tug-of-war game the cult members play at night, where they seemingly compete against an unseen force that emanates from above. While Aaron manages to win the game, Justin cuts his hand and is flung across the floor, further suggesting something otherworldly is happening at the camp, while symbolizing their now diverging paths. As these odd occurrences confuse Justin, Aaron starts to remember why he loved the camp in the first place. Justin also begins to get suspicious of a shack with a big chain on the front.
What's in there? Rowing equipment.
Until the FBI shows up.
Despite the older brother insisting they need to leave, notably by often spouting salacious lies, Aaron convinces him to stay another day and go shooting with him. And once again, something weird happens. The younger brother fires at targets in front of them with no issue, but when Justin takes a shot, he's perplexed to learn he hit some kind of invisible barrier. The conflicting dynamic and responses to the supernatural between Justin and Aaron deepens, with Justin increasingly anxious and Aaron becoming more engrossed in the camp's activities. And so, to investigate the bizarre happenings, Justin starts snooping around the camp, finding more totem poles and running into the angry man they saw at the start, who seemingly disappears around the corner, leaving only his shoe. Reality itself seems to then begin to distort, with the ground shaking, fauna bending around him, moments before the sun appears to go off and back on like a light switch and Polaroid photos are dropped at his feet. At the same time, a haunting track can be heard in the distance, stuck on repeating intervals, as a guy in a shack begins to appear and disappear every few seconds. Trying to find answers, Justin asks what is going on, and is told that trying to explain the phenomena was like describing an impossible color. Hal also ensures him that he's not the leader of the group, just merely the one that speaks the most, before turning up to smile at the two moons that now appeared above them.
It's crazy, right? Some kind of atmospheric mirroring effect. It's like the Northern Lights.
Although not clear on exactly what it was, Hal cryptically tells him that what he did know was that two moons brought the truth, while the third moon brought ascension, a vague mystical event supposedly associated with an upcoming celestial alignment that they're all looking forward to. Of course, Justin continues to suspect that this ascension might be a euphemism for mass death, still pointing to a Polaroid picture of the lake that landed at Justin's feet earlier. Hal tells him to stay one more day and retrieve whatever is at the bottom of the lake, implying that will give him an answer. We also begin to note that Lizzie's a talented artist, with sketches that hint at their past and present horror, from characters we're yet to meet to a rendering of the Lovecraftian monster itself. At the same time, Aaron and Anna go for a walk and see a weird optical illusion that matched the sketch of the entity that Lizzie had made.
It was a natural illusion. It has to do with solar winds and magnetic poles and...
Jokingly admitting that they had no idea what it was, or what the totems were around them, she explains that they adopted the circular symbology into the camp. Aaron tells her this must be why she sent him the tape, but much to his shocking confusion, she reveals that while they made the tape, she had no recollection of sending it.
That's really strange because we all kind of agreed that we wouldn't share things like that, especially after your brother, you know.
It's not until the following day that Justin realizes the severity of their situation. At first, these occurrences are portrayed subtly, hinting at the surrealism that engulfs the camp, but things soon begin to spiral out of control when he finds Jennifer, a woman who's looking for her husband, Michael.
Hal found me. He said we'd find him. It'd take some time, but we'd find him.
Their interaction adds to the enigma, as Jennifer seems disoriented and has no concept of how long she's been at the camp, yet she's adamant that she was not with the others.
So how's the search going?
It's been a few, Our son is with my parents. so.
Finding a cassette in the lake the following morning, Justin comes back up and screams that there's a monster in the water with them, but his brother doesn't believe it. Returning to the camp, they're told that images is how the creature communicates with the group, and so, knowing it had a message for them, they play the tape.
Our whole thing is just making sure that people know that self-sacrifice for the one true God is the only way to begin the journey into the cosmos.
Much to the horror of Aaron, the video is of Justin from the past, introducing the concept of a celestial messiah to the camp members. This is a very critical moment, revealing that Justin has been misrepresenting the camp's beliefs, his involvement in the camp, and his guilt about having brought more people to their doom. Despite the shameful revelation, Hal insists the message is of forgiveness, and that the group effectively forgave them for everything they'd done.
We forgive you for going out and evangelizing us as a UFO death cult or whatever.
As they continue to quarrel, Hal then posits that the reason Justin wanted to be a photographer in the past was because the creature communicates through images, implying he'd always wanted to be the leader of the group, much in the same way that the monster was. But when Justin continues to deny everything, Hal finally drops a bombshell. He'd essentially pulled the both of them out of their mother's burning car, giving them food, shelter, and the opportunity to grow, only to have Justin betray them and almost lead the group to their ruin. And so, accepting that there was no way to change his brother's mind, Justin tries to leave on his own, only to find that the battery in their car was dead. Opting to walk instead, he packs his bag and goes hiking, seeing more inextricable events along the way, including a man named Carl, who explains the bizarre reality of their existence.
Bunch of looping prisons, man. Like shitty pods of time.
They're essentially trapped in a time loop created by a Lovecraftian monster. Existing as a supernatural force, the time loop monster is never explicitly defined or thoroughly explained. What we do know, though, is that it manipulates time and space around the camp, trapping the people within it in unending time loops. These loops vary in length, forcing people to relive anything from a horrifying few seconds, a couple of hours like Carl, a couple of days, years, while most of the camp replayed an entire decade. The movie effectively uses this as a metaphor for the invisible forces that can control our lives, from routines, obsessions, addictions, or relationships that we find ourselves cyclically returning to, despite them being harmful or hindering our progress and personal growth. It's implied the monster demands a sort of tribute or sacrifice, but its exact nature and intentions are left unclear, forcing us to speculate. With that in mind, it could be argued that its goal is to trap people in perpetual time loops, observing their reactions to eternal captivity simply because it can. Although The Endless, like many Lovecraft-inspired stories, leans heavily into cosmic horror and the unknown, the entity's behavior and abilities can give us some theoretical basis for hypothesizing about its nature. Given the monster's ability to manipulate time and space, one could argue that it's not a physical being composed of matter as we understand it. Rather, it might be a fourth or higher dimensional being, or even an entity from another universe in a multiverse setting, governed by a fundamentally different set of physical laws and not constrained by a notion of morality and ethics. In terms of composition, it could be made of exotic forms of matter or energy that are currently beyond human understanding, or perhaps even composed of space-time fabric itself, given its control over these dimensions. It might also be a sentient or semi-sentient manifestation of a quantum field. Quantum fields essentially pervade the universe, and their vibrations or excitations give rise to particles. A sophisticated manipulation of these fields could theoretically create the kind of time-space distortions that we see in the movie. The entity's goals are left ambiguous in the film. However, as I said, it does appear to demand a sort of tribute or sacrifice. In quantum terms, this could be seen as a way to gain energy. But in a more philosophical or psychological sense, perhaps the entity requires affirmation of its power, or a demonstration of submission or reverence as a form of symbolic energy. While contained to a particular location, its power seems virtually limitless within the scope of the film. It can distort time, create time loops of varying lengths, and control the local environment to a significant degree. As for its age, though, that's almost impossible to determine. We know the oldest person caught in the loop was the man from the 1900s, but he might have just been the first person to stumble onto this small patch of quantum disruption. Considering its Lovecraftian inspiration, it's likely to be as old as the universe itself, or even older if it originates from another universe or higher dimension. Alternatively, it could have been created or come into existence at some point due to an unknown phenomenon. It goes without saying that The Endless is a bloody complex film, and it's important to note that it's actually a sequel to 2012's Resolution, with both revolving around the effect of this being. And though it seldom reveals itself, the implication in both films is that it can manipulate visual information from both past and future, communicating with people through various visual mediums such as photos and videotapes that reveal what it can see. When individuals encounter the entity, 3 outcomes are possible. They submit, they die, or they leg it. Death or submission leads to their entrapment in the endless loop. However, if they manage to outpace the entity, they can escape. Not only are the individuals trapped in infinite time loops, but they're also ensnared within their respective time domes. These act as physical boundaries which can't be crossed once trapped. People within one dome can't interact with others. However, those not yet trapped can traverse multiple domes. In the film Resolution, the protagonists, Michael and Chris, are cornered by the entity and doomed to eternal looping within their time dome. In the midst of Resolution, Michael also encounters Justin, Aaron, and David from the neighboring camp.
So we come out here just about every day after prayer and we never see anyone, ever. So this is awesome. I'm Justin.
This camp saved Justin and Aaron as children from their mother's burning car, and the rescue location served as a memorial spot for their mother, explaining the agelessness of their commemorative drawing we saw at the very start of The Endless.
Look, it's brand new.
No, we actually made that for when we were little because she liked paint.
In The Endless, we basically spent most of our time in Camp Arcadia's time dome. Multiple characters that stumbled upon the camp have accumulated over time within this dome, from the oldest member, Tim, to the spokesperson, Hal. The entity seems to have set a 10-year time loop for this dome, within which the camp once rescues Justin and Aaron. However, suspecting the campers of UFO fanaticism, Justin managed to escape with Aaron before the loop concluded, thus evading entrapment. The length of each loop seems to be decided by the entity, based on the story within it. For instance, Michael and Chris experience a 1-week loop, reflecting the time Michael planned to keep Chris handcuffed. Camp Arcadia's diverse cast, complex dynamics, and willing acceptance of the phenomena accounts for their 10-year loop, with all of them, except for Tim and Jennifer, embracing the immortality. This sort of implies that the entity shortens the loops for the more defiant captives. Therefore, the camp's reverential view of the entity grants them a lengthy decade, while Carl's non-compliance might have reduced his loop duration. Perhaps Michael and Chris also face similar reductions, and the unfortunate 1900 guy's 5-second loop for over a century was not always as severe. The totem poles we see at the film also represent the boundaries of time domes created by the monster, specific geographic areas where different time loops are taking place. Individuals or groups trapped in these time loops can't physically cross the boundaries marked by these totem poles, so when the characters encounter a totem pole, it basically signifies that they're on the edge of a time dome. After Carl tells Justin he needs to find a way out before the ascension, he asks him to get a gun from Chris in exchange for a map to escape the time dome.
Why don't you give me a gun?
And as Aaron also finds Polaroids of him that were taken in real time, giving him the unnerving realization of being watched by something above, Justin discovers that Chris is the gun nut tweaker guy Lizzie mentioned before. This implies that their loops intersected at some point before they got stuck in their separate time domes. And so Justin heads to the cabin where Chris and Michael reside, where it's revealed that the two characters had tried various methods to escape their loop.
So we've been stuck in this infinite loop and we've been trying to do different things to get out of it, and I guess they didn't work.
Learning that Jennifer is Michael's wife, he makes a pivotal choice. Given that Jennifer and Michael are caught in separate time loops, preventing them from ever reuniting, and believing that ignorance is bliss, he allows Michael to hold on to the thought that Jennifer has moved on and is happy with their child, before exchanging the gun to Carl for the map and compass.
Use this compass. And trust only this compass, not what you see.
At the camp, Aaron becomes progressively more involved with the members, and it becomes clear the monster is hoping to isolate Aaron and Justin in separate time loops, like it had done with Michael and Jennifer. Unfortunately, as the camp prepare for the end of their 10-year loop, a combination of a party and solemn gathering, despite everything they saw, Aaron confesses his desire to stay at Camp Arcadia permanently. Like the others, he doesn't view the never-ending loop as a curse, but as an opportunity to leave their mundane existence in the city for the sense of community and belonging the camp offers.
I'm staying.
The shocking decision forces Justin to reevaluate his beliefs and actions. His brother's willingness to be trapped in the time loop for all eternity challenges this perspective on the cult and its members. And so, finally recognizing his need for control and dominance, and his habit of making decisions for the both of them without considering Aaron's wishes, Justin respects Aaron's choice for the first time. It's here that Aaron then realizes that what he truly desired was his brother's respect and acknowledgement, not the perpetual cycle of the time loop, just as the entity claimed the life of everyone at the camp. The gruesome sight drives home the reality of the monster's power and the fatal consequences of remaining here. With the monster pursuing them, the brothers make their desperate escape, managing to break free from the time dome before the reset. It's here that Justin hands over the metaphorical and literal steering wheel of their lives to Aaron, allowing him to lead them into the next chapter. However, as the reset camp members reappear and look off at them, we're left wondering whether they truly escaped the time loop, or whether this was the beginning of their reset. The script to The Endless is complex, intricate, and layered, creating an escalating sense of dread, not through violence or explicit horror, but through existential fear and the ominous repetition of the inexplicable.
We're sitting in your living room of your old place in West Hollywood.
Yeah.
And so we decided to do it, came up with the premise.
It was kind of a good idea, I think, and that's why we boiled that back down into like what's so interesting, which was people who try to come back to a cult and find that they're not welcome.
As a character-driven narrative of horror and suspense, the film relies heavily on its performances. The director duo leading the cast portray the roles of Justin and Aaron respectively in performances that are both convincing and emotionally resonant.
Come on.
No.
Let's go.
No.
Now.
No!
Benson's Justin, the skeptical older brother, brings a grounded and cautious demeanor. He's basically the embodiment of our initial disbelief, and his shift from skepticism to acceptance is remarkably well played. Moorhead, as the naive and curious Aaron, brings a sense of longing and wonder to the narrative. His character serves as the entry point into the film's more fantastical elements, and his performance excellently captures the internal struggle between the desire for normalcy and the allure of the inexplicable.
The money comes from the fear, but yeah, we all get paid for everything we do.
So you never have to leave?
Their chemistry as brothers is one of the main strong points of the film, anchoring the narrative and providing the emotional core. Tate Ellington is amazing as the friendly yet ominous Hal. His portrayal brings an intriguing balance between welcoming friendliness and eerie hidden knowledge.
What's it solve?
Wouldn't believe me if I told you.
It's through him that we get our first hints about the entity in the time loops, and Ellington navigates the line between cult leader and sincere believer effectively. Kira Powell, Shane Brady, and Callie Hernandez also delivered solid performances as Lizzie, Shane, and Anna. They encapsulate the calm acceptance and underlying despair of those trapped within the entity's cycles. But it's James Jordan that stands out as Carl, leaving a memorable impression despite his brief screen time as a desperate and frantic man trapped in a short and horrifying loop.
But what you want to do is you want to get unlost and leave again.
Everything looked different all of a sudden, and
Yeah, I remember that. Oh, yeah.
The screenplay, penned by Benson, is a blend of mystery, horror, and familial drama. The film doesn't rush to reveal its hand, instead subtly building tension and mystery through its well-paced, non-linear narrative. I also appreciated that the characters are relatable, with their dialogue and interactions grounded in reality, providing a stark contrast to the otherworldly events unfolding around them. And the writing doesn't spoon-feed answers to its audience. It drops enough breadcrumbs to allow us to piece the puzzle together, respecting our intelligence while heightening the sense of intrigue and unease.
And he's probably the one who's the most disillusioned with the camp. He doesn't, he's probably perfected many things and it hasn't brought him happiness. Yeah. Now he's just kind of stuck in eternity.
Moorhead and Benson's direction complements the script. They managed to create a sense of dread through the environment and the subtle manipulation of familiar spaces, and deftly navigate the narrative shift from a seemingly normal world to one where reality becomes increasingly warped. I really love that the monster's presence is felt rather than seen, an approach that works wonders in intensifying the sense of an unknowable, omnipresent threat.
You always have to work within these constraints, and I think that in independent film, the financial limitations and the practical limitations, they truly do almost always make it better.
The Endless achieves impressive technical feats, particularly considering its indie roots, and despite its budgetary constraints, the film is a creative, ambitious, and well-executed entry into the existential horror genre. With that said, that's all for today, folks. A huge thanks to everyone that requested we cover The Endless. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and if there's anything else you'd like for me to cover, please don't hesitate to ask. As always, it's been a pleasure. Niyat here with Film Comics Explained. Thanks for stopping by.
You usually need the flower to see it this clearly.
Is the reflection solid? Can you go through it?